Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to ask Dr. Holdren, the National Science Foundation has indicated a next major new start as the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope, the LSST, which is intended to detect and catalog potentially hazardous objects. And what I'd like to know is, one, what the technological contribution would be if the LSST were to make the overall detection and cataloging effort possible. And Dr. Bolden, General Bolden, you talked about the prospect of, a land-based systems versus systems that we would put outside in our solar system, but the cost to me, it seems, would be rather significantly different. And then I'd like to have some understanding of whether there might be some cost sharing that NASA might consider with improvements to the LSST to try to optimize it for NASA's use, and get a sense as well of whether the challenges that we're facing in not meeting the 2025 deadline, that guideline that we've highlighted from the committee, are those technological challenges principally? Are they funding challenges? Is it some combination of cooperation challenges? I'd like to better understand that, especially in this fiscal environment.
Well, let me just make a start, and then I'll turn it over to Administrator Bolden. The Large Synoptic Survey Telescope would be an important addition to our capabilities, but it's important to understand that all these capabilities work in tandem. That is, they share information. Some of the telescopes are better at detection, others are better at characterizing the orbit or determining the reflectivity and the likely composition of the object. And so one always has to think of this as a network. We have telescopes in Arizona, we have telescopes in Italy, we have telescopes in the Czech Republic, and they're all linked together, and they're all part of a network that provides the overall capability we have to detect these objects. The LSST alone, when it comes fully to fruition, would still not be able to enable us to identify and characterize 90+% of the objects in less than about a dozen years. But in combination, the LSST and an orbiting infrared telescope of the kind Administrator Bolden was talking about could lower that time to something in the range of 6 to 8 years.
Congressman, the only thing I will add, we flew an infrared imaging satellite called WISE, and then we repurposed it while on orbit to look for asteroids, and we discovered hundreds in the deep field of the solar system, the universe, actually. It is that type of instrument that I talk about. That's what B612 wants to do. We are looking at ways to cost share. The nucleus organization that Congressman Rohrabacher mentioned involving Russia, the 5 member organizations of what we call the International Space Station team, and that's 15+ European nations, Russia, Japan, Canada, and the United States. Although our primary responsibility is operating the International Space Station, when the heads of agency get together, we talk about everything. And one of the big things we talk about is the threat of near-Earth asteroids. At risk of getting in trouble, because the Congressman Rohrabacher and I have a healthy agreement to disagree, and I will say this, it will be the decision of this Congress as to whether or not we ever cooperate or participate with China. It's the elephant in the room. I don't talk about it because my public affairs and communications people tell me not to talk about it. But I don't deal with China by direction of this Congress. We are the only agency of the federal government that does not have bilateral communications with China. This is an issue for the world. This is not an issue for the United States. So, although Congressman Rohrabacher and I,
Well, I'll let Congressman Rohrabacher take his time talking about China, and I'm sure we could have a whole hearing on it. Before we go, though, I wanted General Bolden to, the whole identified mission that the President has set out to go to an asteroid, it seems rather lackluster. And so I've always had questions about whether that ought to be a goal or we ought to think about, sort of the trade-off Mars instead. Thank you.